What's going on, people, and welcome back to Kop Ultras Podcast Show, your channel for everything Liverpool. So, now we've heard statements from both Alexander Isak and also Newcastle United as well. Both parties respectively posting on their Twitters, which is X, and also on Instagram. And also, we could hear Alexander Isak saying a lot of things which are pretty shocking to a certain extent, stating about a few things as well. So I will come back to that. And also, there's also Newcastle as well, who have also gone out of the way and also reiterated and stood firm in their stance, which is to not sell Isak. So I'll just take one of two important points from each parties, and I'll explain it to you guys, and then we will uh, talk about it a little bit deeper right now. So what has Alexander Isak has actually mentioned in his IG is when promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship cannot continue. I was told things that have not been honored, and I believe change is in the best interests of everyone, not just myself. That is basically what Alexander Isak has already posted on Instagram after the events of the PFA Awards and him receiving an award for being part of the PFA Best 11 for the 24-25 season of the Premier League. Newcastle have actually mentioned this. They have opened up their response as well, and they've posted it on X and Instagram. So now, Newcastle have said, at no point did any Newcastle official, meaning the transfer committee and the board of directors, promised Alexander Isak that he would be allowed to leave this summer. So, preferably what we were saying, not for sale. So, while we respect the wishes of all our players, the conditions of a potential transfer have not been met, and we do not expect that to change. So, there's very important points that you guys really have to take note here. Strong words from Isak and a pretty firm rebuttal and strong words from Newcastle as well. But they have mentioned as well in the Instagram post that they would love it if Alexander Isak, has a change of heart, comes back to full team, to first team training and trains back with the boys, and hopefully this matter can be resolved internally. When a player goes public like this, it's usually sort of like the last resort in terms of them trying to push for a move. We had that same experience when we had Felipe Coutinho, who was trying to force his way out. Um right towards the end, where he submitted a transfer request, and then yada yada yada, he would get transferred to Barcelona, and then everything else that happened. And he also, I'm not going to say he faked an injury, but then he sort of like used the injury as an excuse to not even be part of team training and so on. But he did play a few games for Liverpool here and there while he was around before he got transferred. But then ultimately, um, they went formally approached the transfer committee, the board of directors, and he submitted a formal approach and all that. Now, when it comes to Alexander Isak, he's not just talking about wanting a new challenge. He's saying that promises were broken. Now, um, that is sort of like very heavy, and it sort of like tells you it's not about just football, it's more of like trust. Now, none of us know what happened internally. We will never know what Isak actually discussed internally with Eddie Howe, maybe with the owners, or PIF, so-called, the board, especially of the club, or to his teammates as well, of his desire to leave, his desire to actually, find for a fresh challenge elsewhere. Clearly, at that time, Liverpool didn't really think about Isak at that moment, because we were so focused on the title. Salah was on a different level, so we had so many things going on. Now, sometimes when a trust between a player and a club, it's sort of like, when it breaks down, it's sort of like very difficult to repair it back again, uh, because clearly when Isak says that promises are made, and and the promises are broken and they are not honored, that's when maybe there is a certain indication that he's giving that maybe could be a certain type of a gentleman agreement between himself and the club, that if at all, we achieve a trophy, or we get a Champions League spot, maybe he could have told Eddie Howe or the club, the official members of the club, that he will be seeking a fresh challenge elsewhere, and maybe Newcastle's the officials would have said yes, okay, fair point to you, because his stock has already risen from where they actually signed him from Real Sociedad and all that, and him rising up the ranks to being one of the hottest properties in world football. So I think it's fair from his point of view that he would want to seek a fresh challenge, and rightly so. Every player should feel the same way. You we understand that some players, look towards loyalty and all that, which is good, and it's definitely needed. Loyalty in football. There is loyalty in football. I'm not saying there is no loyalty in football, but sometimes when it's a non-academy player, like let's say the player is not from the academy, it's very hard. Sometimes they look at the other clubs and how are they performing, and maybe for Isak, he would have seen how Liverpool have played and the way Arne Slot applies his tactics in the game, and uh, how our senior players or the up and coming young players, and how have they been performing, and the overall atmosphere at Anfield when we won the Premier League and all that. So maybe it could have garnered more interest in him to want to leave. So it's not wrong for players to have dreams to go to other clubs and play. Just that, you know, if you have a gentleman's agreement with whoever club that you are with, um, that's where you build the trust. That's where you build confidence, and then that's where you build a good rapport between yourself and the club that you are assigned to. That even when you leave to another club, you're leaving on good terms. So now it's sort of like the bridge already has been burned. So is it possible for them to fix it back? We are not sure. Now, on the flip side, when you look at it, Newcastle are actually sort of like digging their legs in the sand and not letting go. Now they're basically saying they did not promise you anything unless someone meets the value of the transfer. So the valuation. So Newcastle are valuing, Isak for about 150 million Britain pounds, British pounds. So if there is an outside club, Liverpool, for example, if they were to meet the valuation, then they would talk business. But if not, then they would definitely refuse any sort of offer which is lower than the asking price, and then they would stand firm that Isak is not for sale, because Isak technically still has 3 years left on his contract with Newcastle. So any sort of changes here and there, definitely, we need to meet the asking price of Newcastle. Now, um, they are sort of like saying that he's staying put. Now, this is sort of like a classic PSR battle. Now, when you look at classic PSR battle, meaning they need to balance the books. Now, when you compare Newcastle to Liverpool over the years, we have done well according to PSR. We have stayed disciplined. We never spend a lot. Our wage bills are looking good. We don't overpay players unnecessarily. We've always managed our finances well over the years, ever since FSG has, bought our club from the Yanks. So George Gillette and Tom Hicks, from them. So the trajectory of Liverpool in terms of PSR has been good, and we have been very disciplined. We did not overspend like every other rival club. Now, when it comes to Newcastle, um, the signaling of them actually starting to overspend actually started with Alan and Maximin, I think, and then it gradually went to like Sandro Tonali, and then they signed Anthony Gordon, they signed Harvey Barnes, they also signed Bruno Guimaraes. So all these sort of players demand high fees, demand high wages. Players like these who are quality players, they demand high wages. So that's where PSR comes into effect. So you need to balance the books, and a lot of the players that they have are very good quality players, but they are highly wage demanding players. So that's where Newcastle actually struggle in terms of PSR. Now, they need to balance the book, and being they don't want to see themselves being forced for a cut price deal, especially with that first bid being rejected. I think it says a lot about Newcastle wanting to stay put and staying into that valuation of the 150 million. So if Liverpool were to put in a second bid for Alexander Isak, which I think it would happen, so definitely it needs to be somewhere in the region of 130 to 140 million just as a base price, and then add in these impossible add-ons and so on and so forth, so to almost match towards which almost adds up towards the 150 million mark. So that is what basically we are looking at now. For our fans, now from the viewpoint of our fans, hearing Isak actually openly pushing for change and openly pushing for a move is massive. It's absolutely massive. We've never had this before. The only time we ever had this was when we had the when our backs were against the wall, and when Coutinho decided he wanted to leave, our backs were against the wall exactly like how Newcastle were. So we were very strict with our spending. We didn't want to do much, but ultimately, when we sold Coutinho, we were able to use that money to buy players like Virgil van Dijk, Alisson, Gini Wijnaldum, and so on and so forth. So, and then that subsequently brought a proper level of success to us and for Jurgen Klopp as well. Now, this move that Isak's actually doing in terms of like not to say he's going to hand in a transfer request, that would be the last resort, but him openly criticizing Newcastle and saying that promises are broken. So like he's open to the move and he is interested. There were certain news that where personal terms were already agreed, was not an issue, but then the transfer fee was the biggest obstacle between the two clubs coming to an agreement. Now we have to it sort of like gives us a huge leverage in terms of this whole transfer saga, and combined with the fact that we've already lost Nunez, we've sold Nunez, we've already sold Luis Diaz, and Diogo Jota unfortunately not here, not with us anymore due to a tragic accident. We are also sort of like in this grieving process, but at the same time, we are also on the horizon. We know that there is this top world class striker who is absolutely raring to go for us, and he is absolutely desperate to come and join us. Maybe he could be someone where we could see brighter days ahead, and we could see a major shift in how Liverpool actually go forward in terms of playing under Arne Slot in the in the years to come. So I think it's definitely a good sight as well, because we are actually causing commotions for multiple clubs, not only just Isak's transfer saga only, but we also saw during the in the Premier League, the first game week of the season, we saw Mark Gahey also giving the cold shoulder to Oliver Glasner as well. So that one is also a very shocking, I mean, not to say shocking, it was very surprising as well. So there were also news that Mark Gahey could be, they are almost towards reaching an agreement somewhere in the region of 40 million British pounds for Mark Gahey as well. So he's going to be a fantastic addition. And I think for Isak, when he looks at all the signings that Liverpool have made and some of the statement signings, especially like Florian Wirtz, Ekitike joining Liverpool, and Ekitike actually saying no to Newcastle and saying yes to Liverpool, and I think that says a lot, and I think that turns a lot of heads, and especially we have turned one of the most sort of like terrorizing strikers in the current Premier League era right now in Alexander Isak, and we've turned heads. And from a Liverpool fan's point of view, it's just a sort of like a vindication for us, like that we wanted all these years. People used to call us the club that couldn't pull big names. We were unable to do this and do that, and now look at us now. So it's really interesting to see. I know this saga will drag on for a very long time. I mean, Isak's transfer will drag on for some time. I think it will go until the deadline day, but Newcastle at the same time need to find replacements. So um, let's see what happens. This isn't just sort of like transfer gossip anymore, guys. This is more. It's already becoming more personal. It's getting more emotional, and it's all about legacy. So for Isak, it's just all about legacy. For Newcastle, it's all about tradition and respect. So these guys are clashing heads right now, and we as Liverpool fans can just sit back and wait for Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes to actually make their 4D chess move so that they can swoop up Alexander Isak in no time, right after we are done with Mark Gahey as well. So hopefully Mark Gahey, we are able to sign him from Crystal Palace as well. So with that being said, signing off. Let me know what you guys think. Definitely hit the like button. Share this. Share the channel. Subscribe to my podcast. Also click on the bell icon as well so that you get your notifications in when the video is uploaded. Definitely waiting for all your guys, all your comments, and what do you guys think, whether if this Isak move will happen or not. Let's see what happens. So thank you so much for watching, and like I always say, thank you so much, and you'll never walk alone, guys. Take care.